Hello everyone, in today's video I want to show you how to get this beautiful glowing effect using only watercolor paints. Halloween is just around the corner, so I thought a jack-o'-lantern would be the perfect way to show you how to get this effect. Tape down your watercolor paper so that it doesn't buckle because we're going to be using a lot of water. And then with a round brush, I am just painting the center of my paper with clean water. There are 3 keys to this technique. The first one is that we're not using any white paint. We are utilizing the white of the paper to get that really bright, intense glow in the center. And then we're using yellow and orange circling around that white of the paper to create that glowing effect. Keep adding yellow paint until you're happy with how bright and intense that glow is, avoiding putting paint in that white center, but letting the water and the paint kind of mix together and diffuse so it's a very nice soft look, kind of like a nice soft glow. Once this yellow is dry, we can sketch our pumpkin shape over the top. This is a painting style called negative painting, where we've painted or we have a background color like this glow, which is the inside of our jack-o'-lantern, and we are painting around it to paint it. So we are sketching the shape of our jack-o'-lantern, the triangle eyes, the triangle nose, the mouth, and we want to make them big enough that we can see some of the edges that we're going to paint in later. But first we are going to paint the orange of the jack-o'-lantern. Keep in mind that one of the principles of creating glow is having contrast. And if we were going to adequately see this jack-o'-lantern's glow, then it would be at night. So we need the jack-o'-lantern to actually be very dark. It's not going to be a bright orange because we're trying to create a dark, moody feeling so that the glow stands out even more. So the trick is to mix up the orange color that you like and then add its complementary color, which is blue. So I am adding cyan to my cad orange to get this beautiful, moody orange color that is a wonderful contrast to this glow. So we are just filling in everything around our pencil sketch. So we're painting around the eyes to create the eyes, the nose, and also the mouth, all the way to the edges of our pumpkin. Now this is just one of many steps that we're going to do. So if at this point your jack-o'-lantern is looking funny, that's okay. The point is to get that first layer of that dark orangey color of the pumpkin down. I added some magenta while it was still wet to give it some shadow, but I cover it up later to make the whole pumpkin darker, so I don't think you really need that at this point. And then I just added some dark green with some magenta mixed into my sap green for the stem. Now this kind of looks like it's glowing, but it doesn't look right, and that's because we need to add that thickness of the pumpkin layer that we can see before we get to the glow on the inside. So I'm using my pencil to mark those shapes first, because if I try to freehand it, I'm going to severely mess it up. So I love sketching out where I'm going to paint when I'm doing negative painting, because sometimes my brain just cannot comprehend how I'm going to paint it. And this also allows you to erase anything if you get the perspective wrong, since you're seeing, both the right side and the left side at different angles if you're looking at this jack-o'-lantern straight on. So you can erase it, fix it, and then paint it in. So the color that we want to paint this is more of the true bright orange color of a pumpkin. So we want it to be significantly more orange than the glow, so it stands out as being part of the pumpkin layer, but a lot brighter and more orange than the outside of the pumpkin. The outside of the pumpkin has a lot of shadow, and then this inside layer is reflecting a lot of that light, so we need it to be brighter to create that illusion. Just continue to fill in those pencil lines that you made, and it will look perfect. So now it's got that 3D pop, we can really see the glow, but one of the principles of creating realistic looking glow is contrast. And the only way that we would be able to really see the glow of a jack-o'-lantern is if it was outside or the lights were out is really dark. So we need to create darkness around the pumpkin. One of my favorite ways to make black, a black that is deep in color and leans a little bit more blue, is to mix the primary colors together and also sap green. So mix colors together until you have the black that you want, or you can use a black from your palette. I just feel like a mixed black has a lot more depth and you can play around with kind of how it feels a little bit more. So we're going to do a pretty light wash of it all the way around our pumpkin, and then we want to increase the intensity, and I did that with some indigo, some magenta, and some sap green, because now we can see we're getting a little bit more of an intense color, but we're placing that in while it's still wet so we get the nice natural blend. I wanted a little bit of lightness around the base of the jack-o'-lantern, so it looked like the glow was casting a little bit of light maybe outside of itself. So I just focused this darkness around the entire pumpkin, leaving a little bit of that lighter color towards the base. And then we're going to go a bit darker still along the edges, and it's really fun to see how adding darker and darker layers makes the inside glow of the jack-o'-lantern pop even more. And I'm going really fast because I don't want it to dry before we get that nice gradual blend, especially for kind of this moody outer layer. I want it to be really blendy and not have very stark lines where it's like lighter gray, medium gray, and the darker black. I wanted to increase the darkness around the edges of the painting so that we get a lot of depth, that it looks darker, maybe the farther away we get from the pumpkin because there's not that glow from the light of the jack-o'-lantern. And then I did want to put some of that dark color just at the base of the jack-o'-lantern to give it some shadow, because if there's light, there's shadow. So if we're going to have the glow from the inside, we need to have that shadow just at the base. And I think it's a lovely contrast between all those different layers of the blackish blue gray colors that we did. Okay, and at this point it looks really great, but we really need to up the contrast. Having those medium values of color is great, but if the pumpkin is not dark enough, we are not creating that illusion. And you'll see that once this pumpkin is this darker shade of orange, it is like night and day difference. So again, I'm just using my cad orange and I'm adding some cyan to it to get this beautiful muted orange color, and I just think it took the painting exactly where it needed to be. We're not completely done yet because we're going to actually add some details by using the other end of our brush to scrape in a few lines into the pumpkin. Now at this point, because the paint is so dark, usually when we scrape in the lines in a painting, the paint flows in and makes it a little bit darker. But in this case, I was actually able to scrape off a little bit of the paint with the edge of my brush, and it created almost like a little highlight, a little glow where maybe the light is kind of hitting the angle of the crevices of the pumpkin. I also wanted to create a little bit of a reflection on the pumpkin so that it didn't look too flat. So just underneath the eyes and the mouth, where some of that glow might be reflected off of the pumpkin, I lifted some of the paint out, and I love the depth that it created in the entire thing. And that is my quick watercolor tip of the week, creating an effortless glow by using only watercolors. And I think it's really cool that it looks like this is actually glowing and all we did was layer on paint. Remember, you need contrast. You need to keep the lightness of your paper, and you need to let everything blend, and you will be able to create glow every time. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.